Welcome back to Dry Arabia for another Conqueror level casted game. On the north side in the orange we have Falcon as Zhu Shi's legacy, and on the south side in the yellow we have Deep Shine as the Ayyubids. So this is going to be a really spicy match. I'm really looking forward to seeing what both of these players are doing, and as you can see on screen we've got the scout vision to check out what both of these guys are doing in terms of their scouting and how their sheep haul goes. Deep Shine is also a Twitch streamer. She has a great stream. She does loads of different stuff, so definitely go and check her out. I'm going to put the link in the description, and feel free to harass me in the comments if I completely forget to do that, so then I will make sure that I add that in. But I'm really excited to see what both of these players get up to, because both of these civilizations are very flexible. They're very tempo based, so they can do some really good timing attacks and different things like that. Falcon is in the top 100, so a really super solid player, and we've seen a couple of his games on the channel before, and Deep Shine is also a really solid Conqueror player, so it'll be really interesting to see how they both play this out. In terms of the scouting, it's really interesting that both players have gone for basically the same scouting path mirrored, so straight across from their side and then back down the other edge, which I think on Dry Arabia is a really solid scouting path. I think it does give you the best opportunity to get sheep, and as Ayyubids and Zhu Shi either go on berries or they have their mill on the berries, they are able to go a little bit more aggressively than maybe some of their sheep-based counterparts. Now, in terms of Zhu Shi then, let's have a little look at the map to see what we're going to be working with, because obviously we're going to be going for the meditation garden. It just is the perfect landmark for the feudal age. Now, looking at the base, it looks like there is not the best spawn for Falcon in terms of the meditation garden. We could put one over here, which would get double golden stone, potentially, which is okay. Obviously, you can't do anything here because the deer don't come up in meditation gardens, which is really annoying. The front berries here, you could get stone and wood, which is kind of okay, but as we can see, Falcon has gone over onto this backside, which I think is the right play. It does get the stone. Now, I personally think potentially he's going to be trying to get, so he's got both of those stone veins. You only need to get just the corner of any of these veins, and from what I understand, the big and the small ones make no difference in terms of the gather rate, so you just want to catch the edges and then you want to try and get as much wood as possible. So potentially could have shifted it a tile or two that way, but that's going to be nice and solid. A nice little bit of food, a little bit of wood, and quite a bit of stone. The other option would have been sticking it at the back here, getting loads of wood, gold and food, but I think that's pretty decent, and that's going to be a nice little bit of passive income for Falcon's empire. If we head over to the Ayyubid base, because obviously on the caster interface we don't get to see what their age up is, we are going for the logistics wing. So this is where you get 2 dervishes in the castle age, and they get their healing aura on permanently, which is, pretty good. I've seen some interesting plays with these, with a couple of camels into a fast castle, because then it's a bit like HRE, you already have those religious units that can go and pick them up, and I've made this mistake before when I first saw the unit. Just because they have 2 baskets doesn't mean they can pick up 2 relics, it's only the one. But I think this will allow Deep Shine to maybe do a little bit more aggressive pushes, but then obviously we do have Zhu Shi, which can go very heavy in the feudal and potentially go Chuganu, can go super fast castle. Looking at the macro from Falcon, and we're on villagers now, apologies guys, I thought I clicked it. We can see we got quite a few on wood, so I imagine we're potentially going to be going for a bit of a feudal play. Usually if you see a fast castle, actually usually the fast castle is only about a minute away from now, so you'd expect to see a very different split of your villagers. If we head over to Deep Shine's base, we can also see quite a lot on wood here as well. We got the dervishes that are popped straight out, and as expected we've got a stables. Now with the Ayyubids, this is really something really great for them, because they can make the camel, what's the name, come on guys, Desert Raiders, there we go. They're special camels, and they can make them from the stables and the archery range, which is really, really good because then, depending on your matchup, you can choose which production building you want. If you're against English or Zushi, who generally go for ranged units, you can go for a stables, which also gives you access to horsemen. If you then are going against somebody who usually goes for spears, then you can go for the archery range, which is really, really nice. So I think adding in a camel potentially a little bit slow with the macro here, I think. Oh, no, we're going horsemen. Okay, but these dervishes, I guess, going to be expecting the big Chuganu rush. And if we take a little look over, we can already see the Chuganus in queue, not being supervised. So those guys are just going to be slowly trickling their way across because these Imperial officials are supervising the lumber camp and the mill, which is going to be giving us that extra income. So if we take a little look, that there we go, it's going to pop up now. You get 20% more back as well. So, and you also get the faster taxes. So there's a lot of gold, but you also get 20% extra. But we can see here that Falcon's going for a very safe Chuganu rush with the spears immediately in. So some players you'll see will mass up the Chuganu really, really heavily, very, very early, and then add in spears once their opponent gets horses. But seeing as he must have scouted out this stables, he's decided to go for that. And Deepshine changed her mind. Interesting. So I thought we would go for the camels. Against Chuganu, this isn't the best unit because there's no ranged armor. Camels generally are countered by ranged units in the feudal and castle age. So let's just hit my tracking button, then I don't have to keep shifting. So they are countered because they don't have any ranged armor. It's not a hard counter, but usually that's what you want to be making against them. So actually going Chuganu against camels is pretty decent, but it looks like Deepshine's actually completely missed. They both passed each other by, so the infantry from Falcon is now heading over to Deepshine's base, and the units are not at home to defend. So I think these villagers are going to get hit very hard, and even just a couple of those, look how much damage that does against those. So basically two volleys from two Chuganu, and they take those out. It looks like Deepshine is trying to ruin the meditation. Every unit you have in here drops the income by 10%. So if you see here, we've got 47 a minute, 19 and 28, which is pretty decent. If you think that's probably what, like 2 villagers worth of income. We can also see the horsemen trying to catch the reinforcements, but Falcon doing a nice job here, keeping his spears with them. So this is one of the things you've got to be really wary of this Chuganu rush, as we can see here that the camel is coming in now. That's the Dervish, there we go. So this camel is going to be able to survive much longer than usual, and can also switch to the ranged ability to try and take out these spears. But you've got to be really careful with the micro to make sure you don't get caught, because they are light, ranged and melee, so the spears will still get bonus damage against them as well. So we can see here that Falcon is circling around the bottom of the base with these spears and the Chuganus, and this is something you definitely see with higher level Zushi players, that they don't wait until they've got 50 Chuganu and then just come and storm your base. As effective as that can be, doing it with these little numbers here, it's actually still really hard to defend against this. So even with these numbers, I'd still say this is a pretty good fight for Falcon, especially with more units coming over. You've got to make sure you really do the damage to the Chuganu, and Falcon's job here is to keep the Chuganu alive. If he slowly loses these, that really is going to lose that tempo and that advantage that he has here. So this is where he's going to be in trouble. Oh, the Dervish and that has just pulled back here as well, which is really nice. They're going to be able to do that healing, but the camel is debuffing that cavalry as well, so they're not doing as much damage to them. They're not. It's the scout, there we go. So the scout is doing less damage, which we don't need to worry about that. But looking at the military numbers, it's still ever so slightly favoured towards a Falcon, but because there are horses on Deepshine's side, this number is a little bit deceiving. You've also got to think about the value of those units. So horses in this case are actually going to be doing a lot, and we can see Deepshine's doing a really nice job here of building those units and defending, keeping everything centralised. So going to have to be really careful some of these villagers don't get caught out on the edges of the wood lines, but at this stage, Deepshine is trying her best. We can see she's going to be trying to take out these units, but the little battalions we've got here all guarded with the spears and kept together, so none of these are going to get caught out. Obviously they're a little bit low health, so some of the archers will be able to catch them if they're not careful, but Deepshine going a little bit more defensive here, trying to wall them in to do that. But Excuse me. The scout has seen it, so Falcon knows what's coming up, and if he can get round here before this wall goes up, that's going to be 2 villagers down, I think, and it also means the wall's not going to go. Are the Chuganu going to get it? That's 1 villager almost. No way, the villager made it out. Okay, wow, that's a big save there from Deepshine, but these archers trying to micro, but look at that. Camel down, that's a lot of value. If we take a little look here, that's 80, 50, 50, so 180 resources. And if you look at like the normal horseman, it's actually only 120. So camels are very expensive. They can be really useful, but that's one of the things when I started playing Abbasid, you've got to be really careful when you use them. Also, that villager is going to get absolutely cooked. You've got to be really careful when you use them because they are more expensive. Deepshine doing a really nice job trying to catch the reinforcements, because when they're streaming over like this is when they are weaker. And we can also see some horsemen being added into the mix as well. So there we go, a nice little catch there for a single Chuganu taking out those units. Horsemen on the back trying to pull the spears, and this fight against those archers, I do think this is looking like it's in Falcon's favour, especially with the +1 these guys have. Also, Deepshine does have the +1 range defense. That means the Chuganu are going to be doing a little bit less, but the horsemen also coming in to do that bonus damage against the range is really not what you want to be seeing. But the numbers are starting to shift in Deepshine's favour at the moment, it seems, because I think the Dervishes being able to heal up these units is making a massive difference, because it also means when they're in combat, making sure you keep these alive, you can also run into combat and do a lot more damage because they're auto healing. A little bit like, units around the king or the French knights, that kind of thing. So one of the horses doing some crazy pathing, trying to get back to the little mobile hospital that we have going on here for Deepshine. And I love this little cavalry hospital that we have going on, keeping this guy up. And look at his health, that's actually going up really fast. I didn't realise Dervishes could heal up that well. So there we go, the Chuganu are trying to burn this down. They actually do quite a lot of damage against buildings because of the triple volley that they do. And just in case you didn't know, I'm sure you've seen the Chuganu before, but they do 3 shots, so you can see 3 bursts, and they do 5 per burst, you can see there. But basically the idea is that every time they shoot 3 different bolts. Each bolt is an individual amount of damage depending on the upgrades and the armor. So if you've got 5 armor, then they only do 1, because every range shot does a minimum of 1 damage. So it doesn't matter actually how high your armor is, they still do a minimum of 3. That's why they also do 3 per volley against buildings until the Imperial Age with the new technologies, but we don't need to worry about that for now. So against your units, that's why you really need to be making sure that you're getting the +1 range defense, because if you don't do that, let's say they do, instead of doing 1 damage per volley, they do 2, that means that they're doing 6 for every Chuganu versus 3. So it actually stacks really, really well. So if you don't get your range defense and they get the +1, potentially each Chuganu could be doing 9 instead of 3, which is just, it is absolutely crazy, even for someone like me who can't do the maths. But we've got a big fight coming on here. Archers and horsemen for Deepshine. The spears trying to get on top of those Ayyubid horsemen in the yellow, and there we go, the horsemen trying to get on top of the archers, but actually it's looking like Deepshine's doing a nice little bit of micro here, keeping these guys away, keeping them off the spears, and the archers taking out that spear mass, because if these spears go down, all of the Chuganu do as well. And this is where the numbers of those spears is definitely looking like it's in Deepshine's favour. That was a nice little bit of micro, and as a perpetual yellow player, I definitely like to see the yellow units doing quite a bit of damage. But camels also coming in here, debuffing those horses as well. So it looks like Falcon is in a little bit of trouble now. The Chuganu mass is definitely going down, and if we take a little look, it's 22-10. So this is looking really, really scary. Deepshine very, very heavy on the wood at the moment, so the macro is a little bit off, obviously focusing on keeping these units alive, which is doing massive, massive work. So looking at these guys, all of these flooding in, Falcon's gonna have to be really careful that he doesn't lose all these little units and starts going a little bit more defensively here. I think we've got some more production buildings being dropped down to make sure that he can mass up. Obviously Sushi does have the ability to supervise these, so that's going to allow him to mass up a little bit more easily. Still got to be careful of these horses, even though they're debuffed by the camels. We still want to make sure that they are not taking out those ranged units. Also don't want to go under the TC because they have that crazy cannon shot that the Chinese also get, but The Chuganu getting taken out one by one, and the villagers having to move to safety. I think Falcon might want to move them over to the other wood line just to keep them out of harm's way, but Deepshine doing a really good job of keeping the dervishes with them together, and it looks like the macro has shifted now. A lot of that wood has been spent, still a lot in the bank. So we can see here that a lot of farms are being dropped down. That's going to really secure up that food, and that's going to do really well. Not quite scouted out this deer over here, so a little bit of long distance venison going on for Falcon. Obviously he has more to worry about at the moment with those units in his base, but we do see a cheeky second TC that was dropped down as well, so trying to make sure that Falcon keeps that eco advantage. A nice little tower, so this is going to keep all of those villagers safe on that deer as well. So clearly the wood and the stone there from the passive income has turned into a TC, which is going to be a nice little bit of boom for Falcon. Deepshine looks like she's macroing towards castle now, only 2 on gold, so I think a couple more might want to shift over there if we want to do that. But with all of these villagers on the deer, that second TC, it doesn't look like Falcon's out of the game just yet, because now he's booming and Ayyubids don't really boom. They can do some timing stuff, so like going to castle, we've got loads of different options here for the different wings, but realistically they're not really a slow build. They go to castle, they get a big bonus, they do a big push, and then it kind of eases off a little bit, whereas now Zushi is going to have that sort of tempo that's going to slowly build. More villagers are going to be coming out. We've also got the different dynasties, so here we've got the Jiangnan Tower, so that gives us 3 units every time we build a production building, and it's also giving us the cheaper eco buildings, which is allowing Falcon to do this granary farm transition slightly cheaper than usual. So if we take a little look now, 53 for each farm versus 75. Come on, let's do this. Shift over perspective. There we go, 75. I was right with the numbers. So trying to dive under these TCs with the Chinese towers is not the best. Those cannon slits do a huge amount of damage, but it looks like Deepshine really wants to take out that TC. 1 ram I'm not sure is going to be enough, but especially if we pull these units away, that ram is going to get burnt down very, very quickly by these villagers. But it looks like Deepshine's going for the onion strategy, some more walls coming around the bottom here, and we'll take a little look at that when there's less conflict. The villager torches are out, they're going to be burning down that ram. Quite a lot of damage, jumping in the TC to make sure they don't get hit. Also into the tower, nice little bit of villager micro there from Falcon, and this is a big push, and it looks like Falcon has been constantly producing, Deepshine hasn't, and so the numbers have shifted back into Falcon's favour. These horses getting on top of those archers is really, really bad. We don't want to be seeing that. All of those archers are going down. The yellow is just melting, and now that Chuganu mass is really, really scary because the amount of damage these guys are pumping out, the DPS is insane. Villagers managed to keep that tower alive and the TC and taking out that ram, so now this is going to be really, really scary for Deepshine. If we take a little look, we have got an age up coming through. We've got the growth wing, which is a pretty good choice, 7. Also, you can tell that was an option earlier. You could see that all of these had 1 villager on each. That's something that you normally will see with these, because it just means that the ones you already have an orchard on will get extra berries. But right now I think Deepshine is just trying to make sure that she doesn't fall behind in terms of eco, so going for that. Now here's the big push at the front, and then we'll talk about that thing that I was going to say about the wings if I remember, but the villagers are running for their lives. The composition here is definitely now favoured for Falcon. Not as many spears as there were, but now very, very heavy into cavalry, which means all of those archers that Deepshine has are not going to be doing the trick. And so against these, you probably need spears and camels against the horsemen, and against the Chuganu you're going to need those armoured units pretty sharpish. So we can see a couple of barracks on the back, so Gulams are going to be really nice in this case, and there we can see the age up. Now interestingly, what I was going to mention, if Falcon gives me a second, all of this aggression, I can't even talk to you guys about what I was planning, but the villagers trying to run to safety, getting caught out there, still just ahead in terms of eco for Deep Shine with that age up, but it's going to be bridging that gap very, very quickly, trying to pull back. All of these villagers getting caught in the crossfire. The Chuganu are going to be taking some of those out, and this is really not looking good. Falcon making sure here, you can see he's trying to get on top of these units, and the dervishes must be the camels that are debuffing them, so you can see the little purple thing where they all look like they've been poisoned or they're really sick. So that's the unease ability that camels have. So Dervish taken down, that guy finally done, but the Ghulams are in, but unfortunately the Ghulams are fighting the horsemen. Oh, that's really not what you want. You want them taking out the Chuganu, because they can do a lot, but they're not going to be able to tank all of that damage, so you really want to be making those guys go. Villagers on the top taking out their shanks to take out the horses, but Falcon doing a little bit of work here, trying to pull those villagers down towards the Chuganu. Reinforcements streaming into the base. The onion wall's not quite made it up. One slowly little villager trying to get that wall up to stop them flooding in. We've got some more units coming into the back here. If we take a little look what we've got in queue, we've literally got 2 more Ghulams coming in, 42 against 8, and the villager numbers are just increasing as more and more of those kills are going onto Falcon's side. So 16 villagers down so far, and more as they run around. The whole eco of Deep Shine is currently idle. These guys running around trying to get to safety, but it looks like the reinforcements are slowly getting pressured, but the wall is not going to get closed. If Falcon realizes there's a villager there, he's going to be able to take that out very, very easily, and these villagers are now getting protected by those Ghulams. We've got a lot of gold in the bank, but we don't have any food, we don't have any wood, so there's not really anything that we can do. We need to get those villagers back on those farms and back out to food. Really shifting some out over to here onto the berries and onto the deer is really what Deep Shine needs to be doing to keep that eco going. The Ghulams are going to do a lot of work, but we can see Falcon is also macroing for castle now, so it's only going to hold off these units for so long until crossbows come onto the field. The mobility of those horses is also going to mean that they can raid like no one's business, so the food is definitely going to keep getting hit. So Deep Shine's going to have to pull something out of the bag here, especially with more of these Chuganu in the base. They are slow, but so are the Ghulams, and now we can see the villagers are trying to run around the wall, trying to get outside to safety, but a couple more of those are going to be going down, and there's almost a 20 villager difference as the Shaolin Monastery over in Falcon's base is being put up. We can see these villagers are actually looking at potentially gathering from the other side, but there's another gate coming up, and they're just going to do a little bit of a loop as those reinforcements are taken out. Now, before there's more chaos and the Ghulam finishes off those horsemen, the Ayyubids, you can see here with the age up, you've got this one with the little star, and you've got this one that doesn't have it. So basically, from what I can tell, the ones along the bottom, so the Dervish wing, the one with the wood that you get for the eco, the blacksmith one, and the advisors all have the star because they're the second tier ones. If you go for the first tier ones at the top, they don't have it. So if you can remember all 8, which I'm not able to do, but if you can and you look at the symbol, then you can always tell which of the wings and which of the options they've gone for. So just a nice little trick that you can actually do it. It's not like Byzantine mercenaries where you literally have no idea until you've got Keshik in your face or a longbow shooting you from 600 miles away. But now we've got a heavy palace guard. Now, I actually don't know. In this matchup, obviously the Ghulam was already damaged, but it looks like actually the Ghulam does pretty well against the Palace Guards. They get a higher attack speed, so that's pretty good for them. But now Deep Shine does have a nice little bit of military here, but going to have to be really careful that she can use this before Falcon can take advantage of that extra eco that he has in the bag. We can see now we've got a Lancer coming across and spears, and we've got crossbows. This is definitely not what Deep Shine wants to see. Definitely going to have to target down those crossbows to make sure the Ghulams don't get absolutely cooked. We can see a little orange dot here, one of the Shaolin monks picking up those relics, and this is also going to massively boost Falcon's eco as well as all of those villagers. So Deep Shine really wants to be dropping a a mosque and getting some of those relics pretty sharpish, otherwise this is going to turn even more in Falcon's favour. At the moment the military is in Deepshine's favour, but she's got to be so careful of these crossbows now. I'd be trying to find some damage somewhere. We've got a lot of villagers running around the bottom trying to get the gold, and especially here because there was this double gold at the bottom, you'd want to be over there, but we don't have a scout at the moment, so Deepshine can't see exactly what Falcon's doing, but he's quick, he's shifted away, but they have found him, so that's going to be one relic denied for now. And we can see that Deepshine has one in the bag, so if we take a look, that one of the dervishes that survived has managed to pick one up. If we go over to Falcon's side, here we go, the Shaolin Monastery, there are no relics in the bag just yet. The reason I'm checking is because among all the other bugs, there's a bug with Zushi that doesn't tell you how many relics they've picked up. There is a nice secure one over here, but Falcon is doing exactly what you would expect, exactly what you see higher level players doing, and trying to get the contested ones first. So we can see another Shaolin monk trying to go over here. Is he going to dodge the sacred site? Because you don't want to be running over the actual site itself. It looks like Falcon's managed to do that just right, because as soon as they touch that circle, there's a big ping, and your opponent finds out about it immediately as well. We've also got two dervishes on the field, so we're going to be picking up a few more of those relics as well. We've got another one in the bag over here, and then Deepshine is trying to defend these units, but I do think, oh no, shifting away just a bit too early, and that means that Falcon's going to be able to go in and nab this one. Ah, you cheeky boy. Then they know that it's happening, but but Falcon's managed to bring his forces round, so that relic is going to be going over to his side. These units are going to get caught out, and this is where I think Deepshine's not quite thinking ahead. Going into Gulams is a really great way of taking out those Chuganu early, but it does mean that it kind of forces Falcon to go into crossbows, and there's no counter to these crossbows. Archers are fine, but you're going to also need some horsemen and some other stuff. Little cheeky Wallalor from the Shaolin monk there as the Gulams try and charge into the base to do damage. They can't find any of the villagers. This is where they need to be hitting all of these farms and granaries at the back, because that food income is going to go nuts. If we switch over to income per minute, we can see the real difference as the Zushi units are flooding towards Deepshine's base as well. Here we can see a couple of Gulam trying to find some damage, but this is really difficult. Between the TCs and the towers, it's quite hard to get round the back. I definitely think that's where Deepshine needs to be sending a couple of these units, but now the Palace Guards are knocking on the door again. We've got the Chuganu and the crossbow, not the Chuganu, the crossbows on the back there, and we've got spears, archers and crossbows against Chuganu and Palace Guards. I'm just not sure that composition is going to cut it. The crossbows are still going to be able to beat those spears, and the archers just aren't in enough numbers. They're not composite bow archers like the Abbasid, where they could be doing a lot more damage. The Palace Guards are going to get cooked very, very quickly by the crossbows, but after that, there's no real counter to all of these crossbows on the back line. The spears are just going to run in and as a bit of a meat shield, I guess, but I'm not quite sure these numbers. It's going to be a lot of resources wasted, and if we see now, we can see 114 villagers against 73, nearly 3,000 food with all the granaries is absolutely insane, and Deepshine's going to have to try and get there. The Gulans fighting Lancers, I wouldn't even bother, just send them quick, idle them, but we can see Falcon's already prepared. He's sending units to defend. He's got a couple sitting around in his eco waiting to get raided. This is something that he's already prepared for, and the granaries are all set up, so if we take a little look, you'll be able to see the aura. All of these guys are going to be gathering a massive rate. We can also see a couple of these units now. Deepshine trying to push out. I think she's going to have to think about some way to pull this back. It looks like we're going to be seeing another TC. Whether that's going to be in enough time, we can see the TCs being dropped over here, and there's enough wood and stone for another one as well. So whether it's going to be a bit of a 3 TC Hail Mary from Deepshine here as the units are starting to mass up again outside the front. We've got a lot of different units here from Falcon. It looks a little bit crazy, but very considered. We can see we've got the knights and the horsemen, which are going to be able to take out the archers and the crossbows. We've got Palace Guards for speed, because they're going to be able to be a really nice front line and also really annoying in the raids. And then we've got the crossbows, which basically just negate any idea of going for lancers or Gulams for Deepshine, which are really strong units. So definitely going to want to be massing up in the base as much as possible. If we take a little look over at production as well, Deepshine has a lot of production. This is pretty good, but I think the eco difference is the main thing. And we've got the Temple of the Sun coming up somewhere over here. Here we go, which is going to allow for those extra special abilities and the Imperial Age for Falcon. So still got the Song Dynasty, which means that any of those eco buildings are going to be cheaper, but we've got all of these special abilities now. So the infantry are going to move even faster, which means these palace guards in the base are going to be doing even more damage, and Deepshine is going to be scrambling. The food eco around here is going to be hit very, very hard. We're trying to heal up, we're in the range, but those crossbows are just absolutely melting everything in sight. The farm's in flames, and I think this one is looking like Zushi in the Imperial. It's the Temple of the Sun's gone up and the sun is setting on the Ayyubid Empire. Deepshine doing her best to defend right till the end, but definitely want to pull all of these units back. You want to be massing up as much as possible. Don't be taking these little fights, because this is going even more into Falcon's favour. Running a couple of these units out, you want to be sending them back as much as possible. Maybe even thinking about some more defences in the base, but at this stage it's definitely just going to be trying to hold. But with that eco difference, and now Falcon is in the Imperial Age with those Imperial techs coming through for the Chuganu, for the horses, and for all of that, this is going to be very, very difficult for Deepshine to pull back from. Even with the second TC, the villager lead is absolutely massive at this stage. Falcon going to 140 villagers, which is very, very greedy of him, and it looks like Deepshine is going to call it, defending until the last. I hope you enjoyed this casted game, and I'll see you next time for some more amazing Age of Empires 4 action.